We are out in Tempe, Arizona. Matt is at home. I'll get to him in a little bit. Lauren got a free day, and Keith is back in the studio. But we're all here. We're here because we're celebrating Major League Baseball, the Dream Series, and my special host today, Mr. Chris Young, the Major League All-Star. How you doing, CY?
I'm doing good, man. I think I'm more excited about this event than any event that I've done this year, and we worked the World Series this year.
How about that? Well, why is he excited? This is the Major League Dream Series. This started in 2017. And what you'll see today, we bring out the top 80 high school African-American players for the whole weekend, Martin Luther King baseball weekend, and get a chance to work on their development as the pipeline continues to push players to the big leagues. And Chris, last night we got a chance to have an opening, sit with the coaches, the players. How cool was that?
Just being in the room, like you walk into this convention room and you have 80-some-odd young high school players, all the way from freshmen to seniors, that are coming out here to showcase their skill, but learn, like gain insight from ex-players of the game. So this is not just a meeting of young guys in high school. This is a meeting of, you had veteran guys, LaTroy Hawkins, Howie Kendrick. I mean, great baseball players that are here to share their time with these young players and pass that knowledge down. It's a beautiful event.
Well, and you're probably wondering how long I said 2017. There's some notable alumni that have come through this program, too. Take a look at this list. Oftentimes you hear how the African-American players are not developing. Hey, we got a little Hunter Green. Hunter will show up here later today. He's a top pick.
So many young superstar players. These aren't guys, Harold, that are just filling up lineup cards. You're talking about Taj Bradley, Michael Harris, the NL Rookie of the Year. Great players that start off in this developmental league pretty much and transferring those talents to pro baseball.
Yeah, it's kind of funny looking at Jordan Walker here. First time I saw him, he was a 6'7" third baseman. He looked like a little kid bunting. Harry Ford letting it fly, blocking balls. All the skills. Drew Jones, number 2 pick in the country. I mean, we've got a lot of guys that have come through this program and doing their thing.
These are some of the best athletes in the game. We saw Harry Ford. I mean, that's a catcher who can go out there and steal you 20 bases. Elijah Green, big-time power, playing out in right field. All these young players are just getting their careers starting, but they're starting off on the right note, getting drafted high in the draft, and getting a great opportunity to play ball.
And as we're ripping through these names, you saw 4 of the 5 that you just saw recently. They were in the top 5 picks in the country last year, so very excited to see them. Here's some notable Dream alumni as you look through the board here. Kimura Rocker's on that board. Look, the point is the players are being developed, and opportunity is the key. And so often we hear African-American kids are not playing, but it's the development, and everybody's putting their foot into work. Here's some of the coaches. Jerry Manuel, I call him the general. He's leading everybody. Play with it. But you look at some of these faces. Mike Scioscia. You just got to see Marquise Grissom. That's Kenny Hill, former Cy Young candidate. Marvin Freeman. We'll talk with him later. On and on and on. You touched on a lot of guys earlier, CY.
And when I was younger, we never had access to the guys in the game that played before us. We didn't have the opportunity to come out and gain the knowledge from ex-players. We were just getting the knowledge from our little league coaches and our, pony league coaches, and we're just having to trust their words. But these are guys that are proven within the game, that are willing to come out and share their time and share their knowledge with these players. And the players are able to soak that all in and help prepare them for transitioning to minor league baseball or college baseball, which is something that I never had as a kid.
So as we celebrate this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we're kicking it off here, like I said, in Tempe. But, hey, that does not mean we're not leading the league, and there's news still happening in baseball. So, Matty V, I'm throwing it back to you in your home studio, and tell us what's happening in baseball world.
Yeah, there's a little bit of news, guys, beyond what you're going to bring us in Tempe. Really neat-looking coverage. I love when that red sun kind of rises up beyond the mountains out there. J.P. Morosi leading the league in information. JP, good morning to you. Man, we are bouncing satellite signals all across the country for this episode of Hot Stove today. Let's hit you on the New York Mets, because the assumption was after the Carlos Correa saga ended with his re-signing in Minnesota that the Mets had earmarked, about $300 million worth of free agent money for somebody. Who is out there for the Mets to spend, if not that much, then some money on in the market?
Matt, good morning on this truly nationwide edition of Hot Stove. Yes, the New York Mets still very active in the market for one more veteran bat. And I would mention 2 names that I've heard who are available and of interest: Andrew McCutchen and Trey Mancini. Andrew McCutchen, when you consider what he could do for the outfield, perhaps that puts Canna in more of a DH/corner outfield role, allows you to potentially move both McCutchen and Canna around the diamond with still having McNeil obviously on the infield. That's one option for them. Also, with Trey Mancini, I would go back and mention this. When you think about the off season and the way the hot stove works and evolves, Trey Mancini's first major league manager, Buck Showalter. His first 2 full seasons with the Baltimore Orioles, Buck was in the dugout there, and perhaps Trey Mancini could reunite with Buck in that regard. There you see the two of them talking in Sarasota on a beautiful spring training morning, the likes of which we're going to see coming up here very soon. I would also mention the Philadelphia Phillies could be in the market for a corner bat. We've seen this rivalry unfold in the National League East, not just during this season, but the offseason as well, and the competition for free agents. And I would say, as much as we talk about the Mets as being a good fit there for McCutchen or Mancini, we could also see the Phillies or perhaps even the Braves get involved in the addition of one more veteran bat. Obviously, the price point, Matt's going to be much lower than what the Mets were prepared to spend for the likes of Correa, but still some very important veterans could join at a time where I have to mark the calendar, as I send it back to you, Matt, on this. 1 month from today, pitchers and catchers who are playing in the World Baseball Classic must report to their camps 1 month from today, February the 13th.
Let's hope it warms up in Arizona by then, because CY and Harold are wrapped up in a lot of free gear right now for the rest of this show. Hey, I want to hit you on 2 other teams, JP, that have been very active in the last number of days. Miguel Rojas traded from the Marlins to Los Angeles, so the Marlins are in the transactions column. Of course, we know how busy the Twins have been with Correa and Gallo and company. Might those 2 teams find some common ground on a highly coveted pitcher for another deal?
Matt, I love this idea that was put out there by John Heyman, our colleague at the network yesterday, that the Marlins and Twins have spoken about a deal that would send Pablo Lopez to the Twin Cities and Max Kepler to South Florida. Of course, you think about Kepler, and he's been someone that's performed at an all-star level at the major league level. He hasn't quite had the same level of production this past year that we saw from earlier in his career, but the potential is there. The Marlins, we know, want to add an outfielder. And if they can't find a way to reach the standard that the Pirates would require to move Brian Reynolds, Max Kepler, I believe, is a really strong alternative for them. And, of course, on the flip side, Pablo Lopez has been someone who's very familiar to the trade market ever since the trade deadline of 2022. Of course, he did not move from the Marlins at that point in time, but there was some interest. The New York Yankees, most notably, had some interest in Lopez. And I would say this, Matt, that Lopez is much more available or expendable, if you will, given the fact that the Marlins just signed Johnny Cueto. So the Marlins, with some starting pitching depth and an outfield need, they've got Cabrera. They could potentially move him as well. But I think the Lopez-Kepler idea makes a lot of sense on both sides of that equation.
Before we let you go, let's hit you on one name, a guy who played as a Twin the last couple of years, who is still somehow still out there as a free agent. And if anybody's looking for a catcher with power upside, Gary Sanchez could be of help. What teams fit that description?
Yes, Matt, a few teams that I've been told in the last couple of days are still involved in the catching market. I would mention one, the San Francisco Giants. Questions about how many games Joey Bart is likely to start for them and the overall trust in him having the majority of the starts of the position already in his career. I think the Giants are a possibility there. The Kansas City Royals, which obviously could swing Melendez into more of a multi-position role to help Sal Perez, given where he is at in his career, all the games that he has started. And finally, Matt, I would mention the team that trains at the site of our special Dream Series broadcast today,